Hi, I'm Paul Banis with GreatDad.com, and I'm here with my weekly series with dads with different perspectives. And I am so excited to have Jeff Christian here with me today. Jeff has got a project about pizza making, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but there's some other things too that pizza making dovetails with. So welcome, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Paul, for having me on, and excited to have just a great conversation with you.
Yeah, so I first started looking at pizzadays.org, and so I thought this conversation was really going to be about how to make pizza. And let's start there, because you and I and about 99% of Americans share this intense love for pizza. And I want to know what your tricks are, because I've got a series of them. We make them at home, and it is it's a great meal for making things together, because everybody can kind of have what they want. The carnivores can put meat on theirs. The vegetarians are happy. Who doesn't like some carbs, right?
Oh yeah, no, it is the world's #1 favorite food. And I'm going to take a step back and I grew up with 8 brothers and sisters, and we've always valued family time and family meals. And then I have 2 daughters, Capriana and Leah, and they're 25 and 27 now. And I had the good fortune of coaching them throughout their whole career in high school and college. They both played basketball, and we valued, family dinners again. And even when we were, playing during the season, the games were usually at 7 o'clock, and we might have to have dinner at 4, if we're on the road.
Right.
As we started to get older, I just realized there's just more importance in valuing that time, because you start to see, hey, my kids are getting ready to get out of the house. And we've hosted, I'm going to come back to this, but we've hosted 4 students through Rotary Youth Exchange. And good fortune before COVID of going to Switzerland, France, and Italy and visiting them. And it just took me back of how people in Europe celebrate each other.
They really value the dinners. Yep.
Use dinner as a time to just make the world stop. And their dinners are 4 and 5 hours long. And you just talk and engage and really enjoy and taste, the essential ingredients of life. And so that really hit me hard, because I thought, hey, we're doing a good job with our, family, and comparisons are always a no-win situation, but it just brought an awareness to me that, what, I want to change up what we're doing. And so that kind of is the inspiration to get to your question of like the pizza, and it's because it is all hands on deck, and then the way that we do it, I have a pizza oven on the back of a truck because I use it for the nonprofit that I run.
But
I pull it right out of the garage, and when we started, we had it every Wednesday night. And then now I got so much business and so many people reaching out that want us to bring it out. But
so I guess that's the first question, I think, is like, how hot does your oven have to be? Do you need a pizza oven to really do a quality pizza? Because I think our highest setting on our oven in the house is 450, and I pop it up to that. I've got a little pizza stone in there, but that's not like the 700 degrees you probably get on your back of the truck.
Paul, you hit it right on the head with about 700 degrees, and it's not. So it's a wood-fired pizza oven, and it's, I don't mean to sound crazy, but I've probably made 7,500 pizzas now, and didn't know anything about pizza, a few years ago, other than I love to eat it. And I make sourdough pizza, which we can get into, kind of why I do that a little bit. But yeah, the heat is vital in getting the pizza to rise at the right time. And depending on how you want the pizza, so if you're going to cook it at lower temperatures, it's going to take longer for everything to cook. And the hydration rate, the amount of water that you use to put into your dough, is going to be altered by how long it's going to take to cook. And so for me, when we're making pizzas and I'm doing a gathering, is what I call them, those babies are coming out every about 70 seconds is what that pizza takes to cook. Yeah. And then that just gets a great rise in the dough, and I use, again, sourdough. So the heat to me is everything.
Yeah. Have you seen, do you have any opinion on some of these new pizza ovens that you can buy, Uni and some of the ones I've seen online?
Yeah. No, I don't research them, but I've used a few of them, and a neighbor just got another one. I don't know the brand name on it, but yeah, those are great too. Because obviously not everybody can afford, and you don't necessarily need the monster oven that I have, and it's a lot more work. It's going to take a lot more wood, and it takes longer. My oven takes 2 hours to the right temperature. And once you get it there, then you're good to go. But yeah, I think whatever, oven you have the means and the resources to acquire is the one that you're going to make work and find a way to get it done.
Yeah, well, that's that really high temperature. It's amazing how fast it is. But and then you've got that great wood-fired taste that's a little bit different. Another thing I tried was on a grill. We have a gas grill, and I took my pizza stone and put it on the gas grill, and I thought that would be really good because I think that thing gets up to about 600. But I found that if I kept the lid on like an oven, it had a different odor to the pizza, and that I would not recommend. You have any experience with that? Trying that?
I have not used our barbecue just because I want.
Well, you got alternatives. Why would you do something stupid like me?
No, it's not. But it's at this point in my life, and I'm 54 now, and worked 29 years as a nurse, and life had been moving fast, and been a high school, college, and professional basketball coach for about 25 years, and I'm just in this space now where I just am appreciating process, and I don't know how that sounds to you, but before I would want to rush to get to the end, to get to the pizza, and now it takes at least 2 hours just for the oven to get hot. And there's nothing I can do to alter that or change that. It's just, you have to enjoy that process, which is part of why I mentioned that I use sourdough. But I use sourdough, one, just because it's a little better for you, but two, because it's a process to make that. And I feed the starter every day.
Yeah.
And that's just a kind of mindfulness component for me to think, hey, let me slow down, let me breathe a little bit. And what am I doing to nurture my heart and soul, which is the equivalent to the starter.
Yeah.
Without starter, I don't have any pizza.
Yeah.
Without me being in a good space, whether it's my role as a husband, a dad, a nurse, a coach, then I'm not going to be good for anybody.
Yeah.
And when life's too short to kind of do things the other way.
Yeah. Well, I love that it seems to be a theme in a lot of our podcasts, is that intentionality and setting that as kind of the rhythm of the day. So you use a sourdough starter. I've never tried that. You're kind of local. Maybe I'll come up to visit you and swap some of yours. But I use, for lack of an ability to in bread making, I use the Trader Joe's dough, which is I think $1.49 or something. It's really fairly inexpensive, and it's easy to use. And I learned a few tricks about that, and I'd be interested to see whether you use the same thing. But I take the dough out of the refrigerator and let it go to room temperature for at least a half an hour, and then I open it up. I spread it out on a pan or whatever, to spread it out to make the pizza. I make a lot of flatbreads, but I let it then sit like spread out for another half an hour before I put the toppings on and then put it in the oven. Is that kind of the same thing that you do with the?
No, for me, because sourdough is active, and so it gets really tricky. Depending on, it's a 2-day process for me when I'm making pizza. Like I'm making some this upcoming Saturday, and I'll start it tomorrow. And that fermentation process is going to increase the lactobacilli. So the longer that gets, and I'm in Vacaville where it's hot, so if I were to take that out too soon, it's going to rise too much. And then when it rises too much, now you can't really work it because it's going to get too thin. And then when it rises too much, it gets too thin. And if I were to leave it out, then it's going to stick. And I use semolina and then just a mix of flour in with it. But there's definitely a timing component to working with sourdough and getting it made, shaped, and then into the oven.
Yeah, it sounds like you do it like the guys you see in the Italian pizza things where they're swirling around with their finger. I'm afraid I'm a little less. A little less.
No, yeah, I wish I could spin it like a basketball. I could spin a basketball all day, but the pizzas, the sourdough, is it's a little bit trickier because it's not so hearty. I'm not mixing any other flours, and I've done that before, but right now I'm just using straight Caputo 00 flour. And so it's a great dough to work with, but it's not, you got to be careful in working with it. So I use, rather than semolina, when I put it down, I use polenta, which is got different angle on that, but it's tasty as well. Now, so how about sauces? Do you have a special sauce that you've invented or you use? Yeah, well, just I use Cento, and I use the whole peeled and crushed. Yeah. And so you can get those. Actually, Trader, since we're giving them a plug, and I like Trader Joe's, even though we don't have one in Vacaville. If there's any Trader Joe kind of manager, listen, let's get one out here in Vacaville. But they sell it there, but I buy it from Walmart, which is the cheapest that I've found. And then I'll use, if I'm making, going to use 5 cans, I'll use 2 cans of the whole peeled, and then 3 of the crushed. And then I would use, in that case, of that amount, and those are 28-ounce cans each, then I would use a tablespoon of salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, red pepper flakes, and then about probably 7 to 8, depending on the size of them, cloves of garlic, and probably about 50 milliliters of olive oil. And then I'll
two cans of the full tomatoes, and then 3 cans of, what is the other one?
Crushed tomatoes.
Crushed tomatoes. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll mix the whole. So I do the garlic first with the olive oil, and then I'll add the whole peeled. And then after I add the whole peeled, then I'll add all the spices, and then I'll gently mix those up, because if you mix it too much, it gets too watery. Yeah. And I like a little bit of a thicker sauce. And then I'll mix that up a little bit, just hit it a few times just to make sure the tomatoes are kind of broken down. And then I'll add the crushed. And then after that, I'll mix it just a few times, and then that's it. And put that, and I make that a day before, just allow the garlic to get enhanced a little bit. Yeah.
I actually make mine from scratch, and I got this recipe out of Cuisine at Home, where you take 4 pounds of Roma tomatoes and onion, and you roast the tomatoes. Of course, I'm not making them quite in the same quantity as you are. When you buy the tomatoes, if you buy them by the pound, you are spending a boatload of money on tomato sauce. I got to tell you, it's delicious and it's homemade, but it does cost a lot of money. And there is a lot more what we call in the sauce making business, syneresis, where the water comes out of the tomatoes and you kind of have to boil that off. It's a long process. I actually, in a former life, I managed the ragu pasta sauce business with Unilever. So I know a little bit about this, enough to get myself in trouble, but it sounds like a great recipe, and I will write those ingredients down and put them in the show notes.
Yeah, and then I'll let you get going, or you can direct the listeners to the Pizza Days site, and I put the recipe. My second book for the children's books is Lucy's Secret Sauce, and I put, if I'm going to talk about secret sauce, even though that's kind of not what's going on in the book, but I did put my recipe for the sauce in the back of that book. And we love the listeners to check that out and support the nonprofit work that we're doing.
So that's at pizzadays.org.
Correct.
And where is that on the site? Because I'm on the site right now. I don't see the recipe.
Yeah, so it's in the second book. So yeah,
you gotta buy the book.
Yeah, you gotta buy the book. So you get that book, and it's in the back of it. And then in the first book, I have kind of a dough recipe and the process that I use for shaping the dough, which is a little bit different. So everything's in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so now we're kind of shifting on to what you do, and as I said, I thought we were going to talk basically about pizza making, and I could go on for hours about that. But I love your mission, especially since I discovered it after, inviting you on the show, about what this means to you, because you and I share so many the same values in common. And so tell me a little bit about what the genesis of this idea of the pizza the pizza dinner and the pizza challenge is about.
Yeah. Yeah. So C4 Leaders is the name of the nonprofit. And those 4 C's are how I live my life and the values that guide me, which are communication, chemistry, consistency, and creativity.
I love that you got those down and you know what they are and they guide you.
Oh, each every day, every interaction. Yeah. It's just a big part of how I put my energy into myself and then out into the world. And then with COVID, in our earlier conversation, I just decided to change and use pizza to kind of communicate. I don't want people to get confused now because I don't really drop the 4 C's so much when I'm doing this work now, but they're always infused into everything I do. People just don't know that I'm dropping some C4 on them.
Would you just because this is a topic that I'm kind of actively working on right now is value orientation within families. Are those, I understand they're your values. Sounds like they're the values of the C4 organization. Are they also your family values that you've tried to communicate to your kids? And
for sure. Yeah. They've had no choice, it's just, yeah, well, it is. I mean, it's just, yes, everything that comes out of me, you know? And so, yeah.
Same again, communication,
chemistry, consistency, and creativity. And I'll quickly, because it's worth the time. I know we don't have a whole bunch of time on this, but communication I define as listening with an empathetic ear with the intent of serving. Chemistry I define as developing trust in yourself to bring and receive value from the connections in your life. That's how we've evolved as a species. Consistency is 2 things. I don't swear with the exception of this one word, BTA. If you want to be great, we've been talking about pizza. You want to be a great pizzaiolo. Well, you got to bust that ass. You got to work really hard towards figuring out, hey, what are the processes that I need to incorporate, which come with a price tag to develop and deliver an exceptional product. On the flip side of consistency, and kind of more in what I do with the groups that I work with is to consistently challenge your thoughts and perspectives to the point of vulnerability. Meaning, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. And as soon as we can give ourselves that grace and the people that we surround ourselves with to honor that and honor that courage and vulnerability, that's when we can truly empower ourselves and others to just live our best self, because you're not worried about playing scared, because you say, hey, here I am, and so when you can create that culture, man, then it gets into the last C, which is creativity, overcoming fear to share your God-given gift. And we've all been a gift. And that's the second book. That's the secret sauce. So in writing, I'm writing 3 more books, but in writing these, I'm basically breaking down 1C without really saying it, changing the title. But the secret sauce is the creativity, is your gift that you have to share. And in this story, Lucy's Secret Sauce, I use my second boxer. I'm a boxer guy as far as dogs go, and tell the story from my second boxer's kind of perspective.
Because he likes pizza too.
Oh yeah, she did. Oh yeah. She knocked out a pizza. Yeah. And so the nonprofit, again, we use the pizza making process. And I think anytime you can combine, fire, just like, water, for the most part, we're just kind of at peace in that space. And so when you combine fire and food and you create this culture that we were talking about, and you work with different groups of people and you allow them to get out of their normal space and what I would say to get out of their own way, it allows them to, everybody already has it. We have everything we need inside us. We just need to slow life down, regardless of what role we're performing in, and figure, hey, what are those ingredients that guide us, that are essential in our life, and then allow those to come out. And that's what C4 Leaders does. We create the space for those to come out. And in creating that space, it allows people to be seen, heard, and loved. And that's what we want to do. We just want to create that and then create a ripple effect across the country.
So C4 Leader, it's c4leaders.org. And who is this targeted to? What type of leaders are you?
Yeah, anybody and everybody. I'm working with PG&E next Tuesday. I work with surgeons from the Mayo Clinic, work with nurse practitioners from hospitals. I work with sports teams, doctors, I'm working with the DA's office. I mean, anybody and everybody, because we all need guidance and support from each other. And that's the thing. All I do is try and facilitate having the people to share their ingredients that are already inside them, and then allow them to share them with the people that we're sharing space with that day.
So in that process, that is it's an event or a coming together around pizza in every one of those.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part right now I'm using pizza. Before I was doing pizza, it was just in some sort of meeting room. Like I told you, I'm working with PG&E, and this next Tuesday we're going to be at a park in Vallejo. I like to get outside when I can, because again, it just allows people to get into a different space, allows their cortisol to drop, allows them to just realize, hey, I'm doing something different. I'm not stuck in the same routine. And when you can do that, again, the great things that people have inside them are going to come out naturally.
Yeah. So I think on the site, you talk about four parts of this experience to kind of bring out this. It includes using your hands, having a multisensory experience, somehow involving emotions, and then inspiring others, right?
For sure. Yeah. And I think the biggest step in that, which is the process, is being where your hands are. I think we live in a world where there's so many, I wouldn't call them distractions, but I would say that there's so much stimulation. Yeah. And I think when we're overstimulated, then we can lose track of where we are and where we're going, which is why my 4 C's, C4 is so vital to me, because that allows me to stay on that path.
Yeah.
Like, wait a second, I'm getting off this path, and okay, well, is it worth me to get off this path? Is there some value that's going to enhance my life and the lives of others? Or is that just overstimulation and I need to get back and be where my hands are?
Yeah.
And so I think it's so many times I'm here with my hands, but my mind is somewhere else. And so I think and then when you're making pizza, it kind of leads you into this other multi-sensory experience. And what I mean by that is, can we go deeper, and not just see with our eyes, but see with our heart and soul, and get transformed by that. And then in doing that, so many times we hide from our emotions, when our emotions are in a great way. If we can get into that space, a great guide for what's going on in our life. But a lot of times we don't slow down. We're overstimulated. And so we start to feel all these things inside us, which tells us that we're alive, good and bad. But then we don't sit there and process it. So I think we need to ignite that and then figure out, let me take a step back and kind of recognize what's going on inside me, understand that, be articulate and label that, what's going on, how is that being expressed? And then, okay, is that something I need to regulate, or is that something I want to bring out and share? And then the last kind of part of the process, all right, we've gone through all these, let's cook and celebrate, each other, because we're living. And learning and growing and making mistakes, but we're doing it together with no judgment.
That must, I just can imagine how that could be so powerful in an organization where you're bringing people together. You said a couple of things there that I wanted to kind of highlight. One is this, the idea of identifying your values and living in conjunction with your values, or following your values, and the fact that when you are out of your values onto something else, sometimes you feel, most people can't articulate what's going on, but they feel some anxiety or some discontinuity. And it is because they're outside of the values that they want to live, and they don't see it that way because they've never gone through obviously the effort you've done to define what those are. But that quite often is an issue, because as coaches, we try to bring those values out and try to define them so that we can highlight them and let people then follow their values rather than following whatever the trend is of the day, which is really, really valuable. The other part was just in bringing people together and using this sensory experience, how powerful that must be. Moving from the C4 leaders.org, which you can go and visit, back to the pizza days, because that's more of a family orientation, and the books are more children's books. Can we talk a little bit about the value of the family dinner and what the pizza challenge is?
Yeah. So the first book was called We Rise Together, and yeah, you're correct. The target for the book is youth and families, and I don't want to keep talking about COVID, but I definitely think we came together at the start of that, and then kind of life is happening, and we're overstimulated again, and we're potentially losing sight of what's truly most important. And at least I'll just speak for myself, but my role as a dad, my role as a husband, and my role as part of a family. And so I wanted to try and create the space for people, should they choose, to get back and coming to the table, so to say, with their family. And so in schools that I'm working with and teams, in the book is not all the adult groups that I work with, PG&E, I'm working with them, like I already told you, they're all using the book. Yeah. So the message is, it's written for families to share, but there's definitely messages in there that speak to whatever age you are. But the challenge is this Feed the Starter challenge. And when I'm working with schools, it's to try and get families to slow down a little bit and just come to the table. And so the challenge is, I want them to have at least 4 meals per week for 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then just sit there and gather data and see what you notice in each other. But the research is off the chart with what doing that will do to the well-being of your child and just your family, and decrease in high-risk behavior as far as the youth goes, increase in social well-being, increase in academic performance, decrease in obesity, and just an overall, enhanced feeling of we're coming together as a family. And so if anybody's, interested in that, you can reach out to me. Jeff at C4 Leaders is a great spot. That's my email. But I would love to share, what I'm doing in that space with you, because that's my goal. I want all families to be able to capture that.
Yeah. Well, and it's so important. It's I know some families, this is very hard to do, and there are a lot of families who are struggling and they're working 2 jobs, and it's hard to come together. Kids have sports, kids have all kinds of other things that are distractions. But I really agree with you. Would you say that is the number one best thing that you can do as a dad or a parent to ensure that the family is strong and the kids have the best chance of success and well-being?
I think that's a great question, but I would definitely put it at the top of the list. And it just depends how you use that space. If you say the number one thing, and I think anytime you have an opportunity to drop C4 on each other, because if you just think about the meals where you're going to be communicating, you're going to be listening, you're going to be coming together as a team. That's the chemistry piece. You're going to be working hard together, BTA in it, and you're going to be hopefully able to listen to your children and to each other without any judgment, and just sharing that space. And in doing so, you allow each other to share their gift, And so, if you would just focus even just on those 4 C's. And so then, if I'm in that space, okay, there's no need for any technology to come in there. I have to put the phone away. There's no need to coach your kids at that time. You're just there to just listen and create with no hierarchy, just creating this space of we're all in this thing together, and then allowing your children to share what's going on. And that's not going to happen overnight, and I'm doing a lot of work with schools and youth, right now in this space, and teachers are amazing with everything that they're doing. But when you start to look at a 24-hour day, your child's going to get up. They're going to hopefully have some breakfast, but quick, they're going to get to school. The teacher's got a lot going on. You're going to work, all day. Maybe your kids are involved with sports or band or some sort of club. And then they come home. How much time do you really have to influence the values into your children? And they're coming home doing their homework, and it might be, 5-10 minutes a day. And I do believe every last parent that is out there and that is listening wants what's best for their children. They want what's best for them and their family. But like you said, sometimes life gets busy and gets in the way. And that's the thing with the challenge. I just said meals,
Some
for,
families, it's actually breakfast.
yeah,
That's
for
the one time
you,
they can carve out.
it's breakfast. And maybe we all have to commit to getting up at 6 o'clock instead of getting up at 7,
Yeah.
because that time and the influence that I have to be able to influence my kids is gone like that. My kids, 25 and 27. My youngest daughter lives in Spain. My other one lives up in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And it's not woulda, shoulda, coulda. I had to take action back then to try and influence and ignite their greatness while I had them around me every single day, and me and my wife, obviously. And so, yeah, that's the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we were saying, that maybe it's not the only thing to do, but everybody's got to eat. So it is the one thing that we all have to do. And if we can figure out a way to do it together, that's by far the best solution in my mind. I mean, I just hold the whole idea of family dinner. We had one last night, and my kids are a little bit older, and I think we all as a family just revel in that experience, because like you said, if during that half hour, whatever amount of time, or 5 hours if you're in Europe, if you can drop a lot of those judgments and have a real conversation, you can touch on things that can be anxiety producing or nip problems in the bud, get a feeling for who their friends are, what they're doing, what their interests are, that's really hard to find time to do in other forums.
For sure. 100% agree.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You also have a podcast too, Life's Essential Ingredient. Is that mostly on pizza? I did not listen to your podcast.
No, it's been so much fun. And it's just on, Life's Essential Ingredients. So we have guests that come from all over the world. We're listened to in 42 countries, 607 cities. And we just take people to come on and share, what are their essential ingredients, who's helped them, and how can the listener kind of maybe incorporate one or two of those into their life's recipe. And it's been an incredible experience for me, just to sit back and learn and grow. And Mike and I, my college roommate, started that just to help one person, usually us. And it's just been a lot of fun. And every episode, I take about 6 pages of notes, and just really, really enjoying it. And it's available on all major platforms. Yeah, Life's Essential Ingredients.
That's really fun. I love the fact that you're using that to also get better yourself, but and then continuing on this metaphor of food, which is just such an important part of life in my mind. It just it's a creative outlet. It's a sensory experience. It's a bringing around people, friends, a family together. That's really powerful.
Yeah. And I love everything that you shared. And then also looking at the flip side of, what am I doing if I'm nurturing, my body with these nutrients that I'm taking in? What am I doing to nurture, like I mentioned before, my heart and soul and my mind and my spirit, which to me all go hand in hand. When I take care of my body with what I'm putting into it, well, then I'm going to put other, essential ingredients that are going to allow me as a person to, try and figure out life and try and live my best life, whatever that means, on that particular day, and just live it for one day at a time. That's all we all have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jeff, it's really been fun to talk to you about pizza making, and then also like pizza as metaphor. You can find Jeff at pizzadays.org, which is a little bit more family centric, and then C4leaders.org, which is maybe communicates a little bit more of the vision. And within that website, you've got the link to the podcast Life's Essential Ingredient, which you do with Mike, your friend and roommate, Mike Sestich.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me on, Paul. And listeners, thanks for tuning in to one of these great episodes. And if you're a dad out there, keep doing your thing. And I wish you the best. And thanks, Paul. Yeah, well,
I got pizza coming up. Keep coming up. I'm making some with some pesto coming up.
Oh, yeah.
All right. It's Paul Banis with GreatDad.com. You can find more on my coaching at GreatDad.com/coaching, and also my new course on gratitude, which is one of my top values, which I'll add to Jeff's C4. And you can find, we're giving 50% off to podcast listeners at GreatDad.com/gratitude. Okay, until next time, thanks so much, Jeff, for joining me. Take care.
Thanks, Paul.